Sometimes you want to try a new experience, and you're not sure what. Your usual games are all there, but nothing in particular catches your eye. But it's almost Halloween, so you decide, hey, why not try something scary? Which makes you browse the horror game genre and find a gem you missed. Today's game will be Soma, done by Frictional Games, the folks who did Penumbra and the Amnesia series. I remember loving Amnesia as it was a return to form for the horror genre, mainly after it was invaded and actionized at the behest of AAA publishers, with the likes of the Dead Space series and Resident Evil 5. Because action video games sold. Horror did not. According to them, anyway. Even if the success of the original Dead Space wasn't a signal enough for that. But back to Frictional Games. Soma was in development since 2010, around the time Amnesia Dark Descent came out. It was originally to make a new engine, and 10 years later, when I look at Amnesia for the first time in a while, dang, them some PS2-looking graphics. And upgrades for their future games were very much needed. But this is going to be my review of Soma, so we'll discuss this at length. I'll section off the spoilers so you can determine if you want to play the game and find out stuff for yourself or not. But regardless, let's begin. Starting off, we have a very Amnesia-esque system, whereas you can pick up just about any item you can find and put your grubby hands on. This doesn't have much practical use in the game, or at least immediately, but it does have its uses later. Though the beginning, where I'm literally tearing my apartment upside down to find an item needed to progress, thankfully doesn't set the precedent for the rest of the game. One of my criticisms of the game, however, is the push and pull mechanics, like for drawers and doors, as they feel a bit hard to figure out the orientation of where you're supposed to rotate with your mouse. And standing up and crouching feels like it will change the orientation completely of how you're supposed to push and pull these specific objects. And the time-consuming nature of figuring this out can be a bit fumbly when you need to act quickly in the game. But going on, this is definitely an Amnesia-like game, often valuing sneaking, observation, and similar mechanics to progress. Some would call them a walking simulator with monsters, but I would like to kind of axe that entire term of walking simulators and call them a Myst-like, after the 1993 game series, where you would walk around taking scenery whilst exploring and solving puzzles to progress. There's not much difficulty in the way of puzzles this time, it feels like, but I'm not sure if that's just me getting wiser or puzzles are explained and written out for you in detail somewhere. And I tend to actually read text these days, unlike when I was a fresh out of high school teenager who just wanted to shooty bang bang zombies. But honestly, I found myself immersed in this game. It was a whole new world that you, like your protagonist, are weirdly inserted into. And curiosity definitely will get the better of you. And the game will almost answer any question you can even think of, except for the more philosophical ones that you'll have to answer for yourself. But I'll talk about that in the spoiler section. I often found myself digging through emails and every little audio log I could find just to figure out what happened in the world. Though I'm not gonna lie, there's a slowness you get when you access some audio logs that feels a bit crippling, and I wish I could walk around and explore while I listened. You're usually free to walk around and explore as much as you want until there's a monster in the room. But I found the segments with monsters typically lacking with noteworthy things to learn, often turning them into small labyrinths where you have to find an escape without getting killed. You'll also be granted some screen glitches when a monster or something disturbing is near, so this can be a little bit of a warning for when it's time to quit fooling around and pay attention. One problem I do have is that monsters do have patrols, but I feel like they can be very slow-paced. And you certainly don't want to alert them and attempt to outrun them, since they very certainly will be faster than you. Thankfully, getting caught only has a few repercussions, such as the monster bonking you and taking a chunk of your health away. Unless it's a scripted monster chase, which will just put you to your last checkpoint, thankfully before the chase. Otherwise, it will knock you out for a few seconds and leave the area, giving you a moment to gather your senses. At least if you're playing on normal, that is. If you're playing on safe mode, you simply don't suffer from health loss, and personally I found the health system a bit annoying, as when you're wounded, you gain an annoying blur effect, which makes it difficult to see clearly in dark environments, which takes up the majority of the game. There's also these weird little, sucker holes that you can stick your hand into to heal up, but I often found them doing adverse effects occasionally for the surrounding area when I used them, making me wonder if I was making the right choice. But these small gripes aside, I do genuinely give this game a thumbs up. It's a bit of a short 6 to 8 hour adventure with little replayability, but it's still a wonderful experience and I did enjoy my time with it. Okay, now that we got the review section out of the way, maybe we can go right into the spoilers and philosophy talk, because this game prods the way you think about existence quite a lot. So if you don't want spoilers, feel free to click off the video and get the game yourself if you want to try it. If not, well, here I go. The big spoiler in Soma is that you are technically dead when you awake in the future. This post-apocalyptic future where an asteroid wiped out all of humanity on the surface, leaving only a handful of humanity alive in an underwater facility. You learn that the last survivors of humanity are working towards a project they call the Ark. The Ark, which is pretty much if you uploaded the AI of people's brain scans, like the protagonists here, into a computer and let them roam free in a digital utopian setting for all of eternity. A digital heaven, if you will. The major goal is to launch a probe into space with solar power that will last thousands of years. So as humanity goes extinct, they will technically live on digitally for years. But along the way, you prod this strange idea of living digitally with some strange encounters. Early on, you find a scientist in a destroyed robot. Her name is Catherine, who thought of the Ark project in the first place. You will simply take her entire consciousness chip out of the destroyed robot of theirs and plug it into your tool that you'll have along the way. Their consciousness only exists when plugged in, making it a rather confusing experience being unplugged and plugged back in constantly. You are also confronted with some tough decisions to make as you explore. In the middle of the game, you will copy yourself to another body, as you hear your previous body talk for a few seconds. After asking Catherine about this, they state it's a literal copy of yourself that you left behind. This copy, unfortunately, lost the coin toss of when something like this happens, because that copy will stay behind in a facility full of monsters, while the other one gets to journey onwards towards salvation. The previous copy is knocked out from the scan as Catherine offers you the ability to drain their battery and effectively kill your previous self, sparing them from a nightmare scenario where they wake up with no hope of rescue. This is one of those gray area decisions where it's neither right nor wrong. You'd be killing someone, your previous self technically, but it's also a bit of a euthanasia killing, knowing that person is inevitably doomed. I'm not sure if this decision affected anything else afterwards, but you do get a taste of this decision at the end. You and Catherine eventually are successfully uploaded into the Ark, but you're still left on the planet to live out your last moments in the darkness. You lost the coin toss, and now you have to stay in the dark abyss for the rest of your days. Thankfully, after the credits, you awake in the utopian setting of the Ark, knowing your consciousness did make it, giving you a bit of closure to your adventure. To me, this game is on par with an episode of Star Trek from the Next Generation called Last Light, whereas a probe hijacks Picard's consciousness, forcing him to live an entire lifetime's worth on an alien planet as the sun of it slowly goes supernova. Those aliens were far beyond being able to successfully evacuate, but they could cram their entire culture and existence into a probe so they may live on. At least in memory. Upon living a literal lifetime inside of a probe, only a few minutes had passed for the physical version of Picard, knowing that the entire weight of a species' existence is left in his mind for the rest of his life. There's also a statement that keeps popping up in Soma.
You know, Indians thought photos would steal their souls.
In this case, they'd be right.
Indians used to think photos would steal their souls, referring to Native Americans thinking the invention of a camera would mean your soul is forever captured in a photo if it were taken. which does bring forth those philosophical questions of when do we truly die? Is it when our body turns to dust? Is it when the last living person dies who knew us, like in Pixar's Coco? Or is it when all photos of us and our brain scans are wiped from existence? This is always a big thing to think about, and that's for you to decide. I tend to stand with the Coco camp, as in, as long as you are not forgotten, you will still exist. But I think that'll do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Soma. What do you think of Soma? Have you played it? What did you think? When do we truly die? I know it's a heavy-handed topic, and existence isn't an easy thing to comprehend sometimes, but it's a nice brain exercise. Think of how big brain you can get. But as per the usual banter, like if you liked, poke my face if you want to subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, this is Mr. B signing off. Bye-bye.